talking about what I see, right? I've been observing stuff, and what I notice is that so many people are happy that things are being exposed now. All things that are in darkness are coming to light, right? But is it actually God doing it? Yes, of course, God is in control of everything. But is it in a way that God is doing it against the will of the evil ones? Is it really true that the evil ones don't want these things to get out, like the Epstein files, for example, or what McDonald's is doing, and all the other stuff going on? Guys, it's a tactic they use. I talked about this before. They want you to know, right? These things in the Epstein files, they go back decades, right? Why suddenly is it coming out now, right? Oh, it is exposed now. The evil ones are getting exposed. Guys, the evil ones are bringing these things out themselves. Why would they do that? Because they don't want to control you by force. They want to control you by you letting go and accept them anyway, so they can do whatever they want with your silent consent. In other words, when all these things apparently came out from the Epstein files, right? At least the things they did put out. It puts you in anger, outrage, what's happening to these children, and all these things, right? Outrage. So you cling to the TV, you watch all these meetings in the House of Representatives, and you name it, right? But nothing is happening, right? So you get more angry, more angry. But they know if they drag it out, they let you be angry. They allow you to see it and be upset. But they also know that if it takes long enough, that you get tired of being angry, right? So now they come, but look at the economy is booming. Look how great things are going, right? Let's make a war here. Let's make a war there. Let's make good promises. So people are so tired of everything and tired of nothing happening with the Epstein files that they psychologically put it down. So now when they look at these evil people, they remember what they did. They remember that they are mentioned in the Epstein files, but it made them so tired that they choose willingly to forget about it and hope for a better future. That point, you accepted them. Now they don't control you by force, but now they control you because you accepted everything they have done. That's a tactic they use, guys, right? Just like McDonald's, right? You could share that video between Wickstrom and Finkelstein concerning where that meat comes from McDonald's. And that video is years old. I remember even sharing it on Facebook. And I was astonished that there was only a few people who liked the video, but most people, they don't want to accept it, that it is really happening. So that has been dragging out for years and years. But now suddenly you have all these videos coming out about McDonald's. The CEO of McDonald's making an overly obvious video about that he doesn't really want to eat it. It's by design, guys, because they want you to know these things, but then be outraged. It wears you down. You don't want to be outraged no more, and you just accept it. So they make you eat human meat, not against your consent, but because now you just give up. They want you to bow down to them. They want you to worship them. And the best thing is for them if you worship them out of your own consent. That is what the devil wants, guys, and that is what they are doing. Right? So don't think all these things are being exposed. Guys, the evil ones are doing this. All these photos, all these videos are not coming out because a guy like you and me found these videos and put it out. No, they have those videos, they have those pictures, therefore they put these pictures out for you to see, right? And if they drag it out, people get tired and they just start a new topic. And most people already gave up on the Epstein files, right? And people are so psychologically easily influenced. If one of the leaders in government is mentioned thousands of times in these Epstein files, and with pictures and everything, right? There's a lot of smoke, and where smoke is fire. But that same man promises you the economy is going good, we are going to defeat the enemy. People just choose willingly to just say, you know what, let's forget about it, let's look at the future, because that witch, Pen Bundy, knows this. And even though that hearing she had, what she said was so obviously deceiving, these words she spoke are now accepted by most people. She said, what a nonsense, the Epstein file. Are you, in other words, you still want to continue looking into that? Look at the Dow. The Dow Jones is up. And it was so obviously wicked. But these words had power. And many people chose willfully to just forget about the Epstein files and accept the B system. Guys, these things are get out in the open, right? But these things were already out in the open. Most just didn't want to see it, right? People don't want to see things that makes them feel uncomfortable. So they ramp it up to the point that everybody gets uncomfortable and upset, and that is what they want. Because being upset and being angry wears you down, and it will come to the point that you don't want to be angry and upset anymore. So people willfully choose to ignore it and accept the beast. Hi guys, hi Ryan, Digger. Hi, I'm good, Ryan, thank you. So, do you see where I'm going with this, guys? It's all by design, right? Have you ever thought about the fact that, oh, look at this picture, what they're doing, some high-up official or a high-up businessman, multi-billionaire, suddenly you see pictures, right? You think it's just a random guy, right, who wants to expose these people. No, these people are the only ones who have these pictures. That's why these people are also the only ones who can put them out. They want you to see it. They want you to know how wicked they are, because this is for them the only way for you to eventually accept them for who you are. Right? I personally haven't eaten a hamburger from McDonald's in maybe 2 decades, because I already knew it 2 decades. Because these videos I did see the interviews, and it resonated with me. But there are still people at the McDonald's waiting in line to get that burger. And there are multiple news, it was multiple times on the news that they find certain DNA in the hamburgers. Not just in America, also in Germany, in the Netherlands, in France. They find it constantly. And still people are waiting in line, right? But it goes deeper than that, because cemeteries from the 1800s, right? Why do we only see small cemeteries here from the last decades? But every day so many people die. Where are all these people going, right? Well, now we know, right? So, yeah, we have to hold on, right? And that's why I made this channel, because a lot of things I talk about on my channel concerning Jesus, and that is the one anchor we still can hold on to, guys. Also, like I said in my live video a few weeks ago, the biggest threat is AI, right? Because they do that. They make AI videos exposing about things, but these are obviously not real videos. But they bring it to the point that you don't know if a video or a picture is real or AI. So you're gonna give up on that as well and start to accept these things because you don't want to feel the aggravation, you don't want to be bothered, right? And now we even see our president, when they ask him questions, he said, "Oh, it's probably AI." So now, you don't know what's real no more, it's fake. So people are gonna give up, and it's all gonna lead us into accepting the beast, right? Even the Christians, right? Christians have been deceived about many things for a long time, right? For example, the Zionist Christians, right? They still believe that the people in the Middle East are the biblical historical Israelites, right? I don't know if you saw that interview with Tucker Carlson and the Mike Huckabee. He's a Jewish man, but he is, I think, a Baptist preacher, right? And he's now American representative in Israel for America, right? Consulate or something. And he says, well, the Jews have the right to that land because God promised that land to Abraham thousands of years ago, right? But we know that these people are not the Israelites, even though, yes, they were considered Judeans because they lived geographically in that region called Judea. And because they lived in that region, they call themselves Judeans, or now Jews. But by blood, they were Edomites and Canaanites, right? So do they have a right to that land? Well, they used to live there, right? And that land is no longer God promised land, right? God destroyed it. God used the Roman army to flatten it. And the Bible story went on, right? Somewhere else. In us, right? So, yeah, they can go back if they wanted there. The Arabs are not indigenous there as well, right? So, no, the Jews are not the biblical historic Israelites, but if you watch my channel, you already know that. If you haven't watched my channel, check out my channel. I explain it in detail who the Jews actually historically are, right? The same thing in America now. Everyone who is within the borders of America, whether you are born here or you're naturalized, you call yourself an America. But you can be African, you can be Chinese, you can be from India, from Pakistan, right? Within the borders, you call yourself an American. So it doesn't tell you anything about your background. It just tells you you live within those borders, right? And that's also a big part of the confusion because historically, a nation, ethnos, means people, people of the same kind. So a nation was historically a people with the same historical background, the same race, the same religion, the same culture. That used to be a nation. So America is not officially, historically, a nation. America is just a piece of land with an economical structure, with different peoples and different religions, everyone living together. Therefore, America is not a nation, right? So, guys, I don't have much time lately to make a lot of live videos. I have a little time now. I just wanted to react to that because I see a lot of things are being exposed, but it is by design, right? Because exposing things is the next step of eventually people accepting these things, right? And if the Jewish people want to return there, live there, they can do whatever they want, right? I'm talking about my people, my nations, my culture, my history, right? And if the Ishmaelites and the Edomites want to live there and fight it out together, that's them, their choice, right? But no, the Jewish people are not the biblical historical Israelites. And by the way, most Jewish people are not even from that region, right? They are later conversos, right? But the original people who called themselves Jews were Edomite who lived in the region of Judea. But Jesus said, there are some here that are not of my sheep. He was talking about Edomites, Canaanites, they were not of his sheep. He said, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. So the true Israelites who were still left in Judea followed Jesus, right? And they were reunited, regathered with the lost tribes who were in Europe. That's why Paul went there. The rest who stayed behind, they never called themselves Israelites, right? They never followed Jesus, but because they lived in Judea, they remained calling themselves Judeans or Jews, right? In Greek, Iudeos, right? So, yeah. And they forced themselves to become equal in Europe too, right? And for a long time, Europe was Christian and Christian values, Christian culture, and they just kept coming in, and eventually they forced us to all kinds of schemes for us to accept them. But right, and now they went into Europe and America, living among other people. That's why they want their own state, right? Even though that place they want to go to was never really of them also, right? They just lived in that place. But this whole liberalism comes from them, because a liberal humanistic mindset doesn't acknowledge the fact that we as European people have our own nations, and we can be tolerant, right? We can be inviting, nice to other people, but they turn it around, right? They already told us in the 1800s that they want to de-Christianize the West and then eventually make it the way it is now, right? So people always say, there are also good Jewish people. Well, there are Jewish people who don't want conflict, who just want to live in peace and make a good life, but still they have a liberal mindset, because they cannot fathom the idea that we also have a place in this world that we call home. They have no concept of that. And that's because Esau already gave up his birthright, right? The promise of the land, the birthright, the dominion mandate. Esau didn't want that at all. He had no concept of righteousness, building God's kingdom on earth, right? And the Bible tells us that Esau married Canaanite women and even went south, married the daughter of Ishmael, right? And has been an enemy and resented Jacob ever since. But Jacob was redeemed by our Lord Jesus Christ, right? But the sons of Esau, the Edomites, they pose now as Jacob. They say they are Israelites, even though they never call themselves Israelites, right? Maybe they call themselves Israelis or Jews, but they don't never call themselves Israelites, because Israelites are 12 tribes, or 13 if you hold in consideration Ephraim and Manasseh, right? But the true Israelites, according to promise, went already in the new covenant, right? Jeremiah said, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. And the modern day Jews never entered the new covenant. They remained in that old religion that was developed into the Talmudian Judaism we know today, that came from Babylon, guys, right? So yeah, they want to manipulate you into call you all kinds of names, right? This is not about an unfounded hatred and denying of stuff. This is just history, guys. But more and more people are starting to realize that we as a European people are a people with a rich history, and we were redeemed and reconciled in Christ. That's why Europe became Christian, as the only place on this whole earth. Only Europe became Christian, right? So this whole replacement theory, the Old Testament was about the Jews, the New Testament is about all the non-Jews, is just not true. The Old Testament and the New Testament is a continuation. The New Testament is a fulfillment of the Old Testament. But nowhere in the Old Testament was a promise made that God will forget about his people and then bring the gospel to a totally different people, right? So yeah, a lot of things are happening, guys, and we are being tested like never before. The Jews really, really hate us, even though we have been trying to be good to them, right? Make them equal, but they really hate us, right? So there is someone called Uncle Stein said to me, "Get a life." That's what I mean. That they really hate us, guys. They don't want to hear the truth. They just don't want to hear it, right? But we are not about violence. We are not about trying to control other people, censor other people, what they do, threaten you. That's not what we are all about, right? We are gonna have a new heaven and a new earth, right? And the enemies of God are going to be dealt with according to how God is going to deal with them, right? But I'm going to focus not too much on them. I'm going to focus on my own people, because I see my own people are in trouble. They don't love each other no more. They don't care about their God no more. There are all kinds of false denominations, false sense of religion, false doctrines, very religious mindset, fleshly mindset, right? Many Christians are just like Muslims and Jews, thinking that by all these worldly, fleshly rituals and mindset, right, you can make points, score points with God, right? But we as Christians are the only ones who can lead a real spiritual life, right? It has nothing to do with all these outwardly religious things that even Christians think that will help them, right? So, yeah, we are not at a time that white people will start to love each other, right? That will come, but we are not there at this moment. Right? At this moment, it is nothing but division and strife, even among Christians, right? But it is all for a reason, right? In the end, God is in control of everything, right? But the evil is coming out there, right? And the evil ones want you to know, so that you let them do these things and just start to see it as it's just the way it is. There's nothing we can do about it. We just cannot accept it, right? So God is watching us to accept the mark of the beast or not, right? Because the mark of the beast, people always say it's a physical chip or a tattoo, but the mark of the beast can also be something that causes you to take all these physical things, because a mark in your forehead or on your right hand, symbolism for your mind, and your right hand is symbolism for action, right? So if you have a mark in your forehead and in your right hand, your forehead is how you think and your hand is what you do, right? And these things can cause you indeed to accept all kinds of physical control systems, right? So I hope this helps, guys, and God bless you. Stay grounded in Jesus, right? In His Spirit, right? Get out of her, my people, all these earthly, worldly Christian denominations, right? Dispensationalism, replacement churches, Zionist churches, guys. And I see a lot of people now talking against these things, but I had a lot of time to watch podcasts, and I see a lot of people speaking out, right? But they have all one thing in common, that in their mind they are still liberal, universalistic, right? I even watched a video of a guy who made a video that the Jews are not the Israelites, right? So I listened to him, and the first video, it could have been straight from my channel, right? How the kingdom was divided, the whole setup, everything was exactly how I explained it, right? So I thought, okay, finally someone else who does the same thing. But then he came to the New Testament and he said, but now it doesn't matter no more, right? Now suddenly the whole Old Testament is old. Now God brings the gospel to totally different people, right? So also all these other people making podcasts, right? They all speak out against what these people are doing and these people and what our government is doing, and speak against the Epstein files. But they are all still humanistic, universalistic, So that is the biggest problem. And therefore, nothing is changing because people are scared to let go of humanism. And being against humanism has nothing to do that you want to destroy other human beings. Being against humanism just means that you respect and accept people across the world having their own cultures, but that you also want to stand up for your own culture, for your own people. They call it evil supremacy. It's nothing to do with feeling supreme. It has just to do with that you love your own people, your own history, your forefathers, and your culture. Nothing to do with feeling supreme. I don't feel supreme. I just like my own people. I like my God. I like my culture. That's all it is, right? And if the people in India want to fix their food the way they do it, they can do it over there, right? I just don't want it here, right? And the Edomites who call themselves Jews, they say that is evil supremacy, even though they want their own ethno-state. We can't have it, right? They want borders, we can't have borders. They want to be ethnically and religiously the same, but we must be multicultural, right? And people are waking up to the fact that it is hypocritical, right? So it is very hard to find podcasts and YouTube videos and you name it of people who do stand up against humanism, human rights, and universalism, because all of them, 99.9% of these podcasts, they speak out against all the things, but they hold on that we're all human beings, right? We're all the same, right? Even here the Christians talk about humanity and worldwide. Guys, every time a pastor talks about humanity, he's misunderstanding the gospel. The gospel is not about humanity, right? Because if that would be true, nothing matters. It doesn't matter that we eventually will disappear from this earth, right? Because if we're all humans and there is no different and God loves everybody, then also it doesn't matter that England will be non-white within a few decades, right? So that's a problem, right? So if you tell people the gospel is for the Jews and the non-Jews, right, nothing matters, right? Because now, if you say, but now in God we're all equal, what? Who cares that Pakistanis and Indians and Arabs coming into England and replace the real English people, right? Why should that matter if now we're equal, right? We are not equal. And I'm not even saying some are better and these are worse. No, I'm just talking about we are not equal, because if we are really equal, we wouldn't even have this conversation, right? We wouldn't even have Black Lives Matters. We wouldn't even have anti-racist groups. We wouldn't even have all these things if it was really true that we are all the same. And we are just not all the same, guys. They want you to believe it, but the more they say it, the more they make us multicultural, the more it becomes the way it is now, right? And it's nothing to do with the economy, nothing to do that we have to have a better president, nothing to do with politics, because there is no politician on this earth who can change anything. It doesn't matter what they say, what they promise, they're on the right, it doesn't matter, right? We are in this mess because we are not living in God's spirit as a people no more, right? Because this is where the blessings are, guys. This is where we will thrive, right? So I hope that most white people just gonna acknowledge the fact that we have a father and we are people, right, guys? So, okay, this is one I wanted to put out today. How do I turn this off? Let me see. Okay, guys, God bless you.